Ahoy there, Kumi here. Today I'll be building the Tofu65, a true classic of the custom keeps world, debuting way back in 2018. It is one of the few kits that stays consistently in stock and is a solid pick for beginners looking for their first board. Now, disclaimer, I got this kit secondhand, so your unboxing experience will likely be different. Opening the box, we are greeted with the PCB. This is the DZ65 RGB B2 Hot Swap PCB. It sports Kale hot swap sockets with 5-pin switch support and is compatible with screw-in stabilizers. As per the namesake, it comes with per key RGB and south-facing LEDs. Do note that the top left two sockets have north-facing LEDs, likely due to the USB-C port. Next, we have the plates. I have with me the aluminium and brass plate. KBD Fans also offers polycarbonate and carbon fiber options on their website. Under the plates is the cherry screw-in stabilizers that is the offering of choice with this kit. Then I have the 6 screws for the build, and we come to the case itself, which is made of CNC aluminium with a brass back weight that has the KBD Fans name etched into it. Moving to the side profile, this board has a 7-degree typing angle and 19mm lip. Lastly, we come to the optional foam. The kit I got comes with both the plate and case foam. The switches of choice for this build are the Durock POMs. As per the namesake, the housing is made of POM, and with the mystery material stem, the switch is very smooth stock. This is a 5-pin linear switch with 63.5 gold-plated springs. The house is fully black with a frosty white stem, which is why the switch is aptly nicknamed Durock Pianos. Here is the stock sound test. Not too shabby. There is no noticeable north, south or east-west wobble, but the housing is fairly tight to open, so it's good practice to still film the switch. In theory, opening switches tends to make the housing expand, so filming counteracts this. Note that while lubing, you'll only want to do a light coat, as this switch is prone to sounding wet if overdone. I've gone over the switches with the usual Krytox 205G0 on the housing and stems, and tub looped the springs with Krytox 105G0. Here is the modded sound test. Before we get into the assembly and modding of the board, I actually have with me not one but 2 kits, so I'll be modding and mounting each one differently. I'll be starting with the stabs as always. If you'd like an in-depth rundown on how I mod mine, check out the Keycron Q1 vid in the top right info card. For the first build, I'll be using the standard aluminium plate with the dark grey case. I'll be tape modding the PCB and using both PE foam and plate foam. For the case, cut out a piece of 5mm EVA foam to fill the hole that I'm guessing is for a battery should you be building wireless. Next, lay in the case foam, and I added a piece of PE foam on top. Now to assemble, we'll be starting with the screws. We'll only be using the side 4 standoffs as the mid 2 aren't really needed. I'll be doing the highly popular O-ring mod where you use 1.5mm thick by 4mm outer diameter and 1mm inner diameter O-rings on the screws to soften the typing experience. First, slide an O-ring onto each screw. Then place the screws into the PCB and slide on an O-ring on the underside of each screw. Now you're ready to lay on the PE foam, and plate on the PCB. The Durock POMs are a bit of a tight fit, so you want to put in the switches now when you can support the socket with each insertion. At the very least, do the inserting on a soft surface like a desk mat to prevent the possibility of a socket popping out. Now insert the plate and PCB combo into the case, top first, being careful of the USB port and gently guide it into the case. Next, screw in the O-ring mounted screws, being careful not to fasten them in too tight as that will defeat the purpose of this mod. Once you feel the screw catch the standoff, you only need about 5 to 6 turns to keep the PCB in the case. Finally, finish the build by putting on the keycaps. I have here the Domikey triple shot white on black keycaps, which feel very premium to type on and have nice crisp legending. Highly impressed with this maker and will be buying more of their sets. For the second build, I'll be using the brass plate with the silver case. As brass plates tend to be louder and has a lower pitch, I'll be foregoing the PE foam and only using the tape mod and plate foam to keep some of that character. The switches can go straight in as I won't be using any screws to mount this build. This also means the standoffs in the case can go. I have a tendency to do this where I can, as it generally leads to a better sounding board. Now, as this is a metal case, you'll need a power drill or Dremel to remove the standoff. For a first try, I think I did okay, although I didn't quite get a clean removal until the last standoff. As with the last build, we'll be filling the hole in the case, and then instead of using foam, we'll be using polyfill. This will fill in some of that hollowness without muting the board as much. Now we get to the interesting part. So initially I wanted to O-ring mount the board, but then I realised the plate doesn't actually support plate mount stabs, and the screw-in stabs don't allow enough clearance for the O-ring to sit between the PCB and plate. I believe clip-in stabs also work, but I didn't have any, so I had to be a bit creative. After some testing, I settled on using thick rubber bands and cutting them in half to use on the left and right side of the plate and PCB assembly. Start inserting from the top, being careful of the USB port, making sure that the rubber band is catching on either side of the PCB and plate assembly, and slowly push in the rest of the top combo to essentially create a friction mount. Once it's seated in nicely, cut off any excess rubber that may interfere with the keycaps. To finish, I'll be using Milkyway Lilith on this board. The alternative to GMK Mecha 01 for Evangelion fans, I'm very happy with the quality of the die sub printing, and the legending looks pretty spot on too. Looking forward to Milky Way making it big as a keycap manufacturer. I'm quite happy with both builds, and I get why the tofu is a staple in this hobby. I actually prefer the sound of the aluminium plate with O-ring mounted standoffs, as it makes the Durock POMs really pop and sounds quite lively. The spacebar is just chef's kiss. It might just be me, but the Durock POMs don't really sound that great with a brass plate, although surprisingly, the friction mounted brass plate build sounds more muted than the first one. Not really sure the science behind that, but I popped in some alpacas and I liked it a lot more. The friction mounted brass plate build really brings out the creaminess of the alpacas. Let me know what you think. Any and all feedback is welcome. Next video will be up in 2 weeks. Sound test coming in 3, 2,